Hi, welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Critical Role Campaign 2, Episode 128, Cat and Mouse.
Yes.
A tense episode.
Yes. In the words of Sam, butt clenching.
Yes.
Good episode.
Yeah. Although, we really only had 3 scenes. Well, 4. 4 scenes. Scene 1 is the battle.
Yeah.
Which went closer to what you had predicted than what I did. Because I expected them to run down into the basement.
Right.
And judging by the volume of text messages in their thread, I think that possibility was discussed.
Yeah.
I think one thing that was pretty clear to me was that Liam was pretty salty about that counterspell. And the one in session when Matt just rolled.
Yeah.
Whereas
with the wall of fire.
Well, that was a
dispel Matt. But he was
gestures, countering gestures.
Yeah, but he, yeah,
it
was another instance.
Yeah, and I'm kind of Matt broke precedent.
Okay.
When he let Caleb cast Counterspell against Avantika when she cast Control Water. And she was on the other side of the wall of fire. Because
Semantics
theory,
points against. Theoretically, that wall in the room was floor to ceiling. On a ship, there's open air.
Why would that matter?
Sound traveling. Like, if the sound's being blocked by a wall of fire.
Well, the wall of fire states that it is opaque. And Counterspell says you have to see and hear.
There.
And Matt said, "You've looked through fire enough. Yeah, I'll say you can see her." Whereas this time,
well, they said you can't hear.
Fair, but I don't know. I don't know. Is the precedent he set on the ship was a point of contention because he was able to cast Counterspell through the wall of fire before. However you want to argue,
yeah,
he could hear over because literally over the fire, or what have you. So that was sticking point number 1.
Okay.
But then Matt just rolls the die rather than saying he's casting Counterspell to allow Liam to cast Counterspell.
Where Liam says, "You have to say Counterspell so I can Counterspell."
Yeah. And he was a little. My interpretation of that tone was he was a little salty.
Yeah.
I
agree. I mean, Trent. I think it was pretty clear Trent was there willing to talk. And Caleb, not so much.
I think Caleb's interpretation in saying that he didn't want to make a deal with him is accurate because it probably would have involved some kind of deal.
Yeah. And, like I told you earlier, Hamilton went through my mind during this scene because Caleb throws up the wall of fire and Trent doubts it and says, "Hey, this is kind of pointless. Let's talk." And Caleb throws it. It's like, "Okay, so we're doing this, just Might be the scene with Burr and Hamilton,
Yeah. The 10 dual commandments. Yeah.
In fact, I almost wore my Hamilton and Burr shirt tonight because of that moment.
Nice.
But, I mean, we have that instance, and Caleb throws, wall of fire. It's dispelled. He says, hey, let's talk. I throw a firebolt. I'm assuming that was shield. He didn't say shield specifically. Or some kind of ability, shield-like ability. And it's hard because that uses a reaction that muddles things. Unless he has legendary actions.
Yeah.
Or it was just some kind of defensive thing that he already had up.
Yeah. Because he could be wearing some sort of robes that give him a bonus to AC.
Yeah. The only reason I say that is because he lifted his hand and it went to the side. Regardless of how it works. Then we have Veth reacting, not thinking, in her actions.
Yeah.
It's just like, taste my magic, let's throw the intelligence save at the wizard.
At the archmage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which works about as well as,
the barbarian con save or the fighter strength save. Yeah.
Or counting on the barbarian to pass a wisdom save.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Jester panics and it's like, we gotta get the fuck out.
Uses her last high level spell slot.
For Word of Recall.
I kind of wish they had checked the tapes. Because her Word of Recall was not Veth's house. It was her room.
Yeah.
And the specific phrase was, if there was ever a temple to the traveler, this is it.
Yeah.
But I mentioned that last week. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse this week. And ultimately, I don't think it changes anything.
No.
Other than perhaps Marion gets her necklace sooner.
Yeah. And probably better snacks at the Lavish Chateau than carrot sticks and Pabst and warm Pabst. But, that's a minor detail.
And I really felt bad for Caleb because this whole episode, and he mentions it in the beginning, that this is his nightmare.
This has been his nightmare since they first got to Nicodranus.
And then he says it again in the latter part of the episode. And so, like, for me, this whole episode, beginning to end, is Caleb's nightmare.
Yeah.
He's having to confront Trent, underpowered, how he feels behind the 8 ball. Trent is in his head.
Yep.
Several times.
Not only are his friends in danger because of him, but his friends' families.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arguably the two most important people to him and their families.
Yeah. Now, Jester's endangerment is her own fault.
Yes, most definitely. Arguably, I mean, yeah, they could have scried and found where they went or tracked them at, but arguably, the whole reason they're at Nicodranus, at least as quickly as they are, is Jester's fault.
Yeah.
Because she went and we're going to save guy number 1 and we're going to tell him all about my family and where to find us. And
which isn't the first time she's done that.
No.
With members attached to the assembly. So, yeah. They decide to attune to the necklaces before they go and visit their families. Do you think that was good or bad?
honestly bad.
And see, I agree too. And I don't say this as Monday morning quarterback.
Right.
When I was watching the episode live, I was like, you need to get them those necklaces now.
Yeah.
You all need to be attuning to them at the same time.
Yeah.
They weighed the danger of scrying against. I guess they didn't think it would be possible for them to catch up as fast as they did.
Well, that and I don't think they realized yet that the guy that was running from the tower was the guy that Jester charmed. I mean, it was obvious from a viewer standpoint, and we talked about that was that guy, but I don't think they realized until later when Astrid was like, well, one of the guards. And I'm judging that based on Laura's reaction to Astrid saying that.
Yeah.
So I don't think they counted on that guard, because they were buddies. Why would he rat out his buddy?
Yeah. So
that's what happens when you force the friendship.
True. We get some spy versus spy stuff happening. At least that's how I'm terming it. Everyone's casting disguise self, invisibility. And
well, that's a little later. That's at the chateau.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
I mean, first of all,
we don't want to skip over the beach.
Well, they get together. You know, the other team makes it to Vest's place, and they have the debriefing kill count. And you know, the statement that we called. You know, I can't believe we killed all those people. What were we thinking?
Yeah.
Now, ironically, the part you were jumping to, Vest's already ready to just fuck people up again after showing remorse there. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But, yeah, then it's like, well, let's go warn everybody and get them their necklaces. But first, let's take a montage at the beach. You know? And I was like, what? Why are we going to the beach instead of getting the people that need the necklaces their necklaces?
Yeah.
But the beach was very important. Mainly because of the French braiding of Ford's hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a moment with Yasha and Jester on the beach.
And Laura continues to be bad about her components.
Yeah.
Because
25 gold worth of powdered silver.
Yeah.
Which, I could be wrong, but don't they have some powdered residuum left?
Yes.
So, I mean, she didn't state she was using it or count, but if you're going to give her the benefit, they could have had the components.
Yes. And perhaps Matt later said mark off that residuum. If he even noticed.
Right.
But here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Why did she prepare ceremony?
Because in my mind, she's been preparing ceremony ever since Bo asked Yasha on the day so that she could perform the marriage ceremony. I am 80% positive that ever since that episode, every long rest ceremony has been on her prepared list.
I can't argue with that. Because that was also my conclusion as to if she indeed had it prepared, that was why.
I mean,
and Jester is the type that she thinks they should be married.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes me wonder, or is she doing that so her and Ford?
I mean, possibly. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think when it's time for that, she'll ask Caduceus to prepare it.
If it ever comes to that.
Because she wants to be the bride. She doesn't, you know what I mean?
I mean, sure.
But yeah, though, see, the thing I had about the ceremony is the dedication. It says you touch a willing creature and dedicate them to your God service, not their God service.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, and I'm okay with it, but I mean, it was a kind of a stretch, bend, twist of the rule.
Yeah. Well, and written. Matt basically acknowledged that in the moment.
Yeah.
Because Artagan appeared and was like, I did what I could.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So we'll see.
Like you said, I'm okay with it. She's now I don't know, a Barbadin, Palvarian.
No. I did like her prayer to the Storm Lord.
Yes.
And her saying, I want to be your avatar, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So we may see Yasha with a boon from the Storm Lord soon.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe attuning to the Holy Avenger is the boon, but I kind of think it will be lightning and or thunder themed. Watching Matt during the prayer and then the ceremony,
mm-hmm.
there were a couple times where he almost said something, but didn't want to interrupt the RP that was happening, so he just kind of did like this.
Yeah.
And I think he was going to let on that Yasha could try to attune to the Holy Avenger again.
Yeah.
So we may see that.
Yeah. And that's what my thought was about that scene was.
Yeah.
In the moment I was like, okay, she's going to be able to attune.
Yeah. Well, and on Talks, she seemed to imply that her and Matt have talked about the potential role-playing, her being able to attune to it.
Yeah. And she even, in the prayer, she brought up the sword.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then finally we get to the lavish chateau where they told all the people that need the necklaces to go.
Yes. Which is where the bad guys were waiting. And
because they took time to attune and then went to the beach.
Yes. Taliesin gets a 30 on his perception check.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of natural 20s this episode. It's gotta be up there.
Yeah. Close to, if not the record.
Yeah. Especially if you count it 20s per number of rolls.
Yeah.
Or maybe even per minute.
Yeah, percentage of 20s per roll.
Yeah.
Crit roll stats, hit us up, let us know.
There's some, I wish I could whisper, and texting and whatnot.
Missing hugs.
Interesting thing, and I didn't think about this until almost right before we went on it. Started the show. If Matt had called a break then, because it was at about the 90-minute mark.
Yeah, he could have
pulled Talon aside and talked to him, and then they come back from break, and then go. But the break was late.
Yeah,
over 2.5 hours into the episode, and the post-break content was only 40 minutes, of which they spent about 4 or 5 minutes being confused over how time works in the ball.
Yeah.
But get to that when we get there. But yeah.
Yeah, we have the heart-to-hearts with family.
Yes. Jester ruins or destroys Marion's life.
Yes.
Her world. Because Matt describes Marion like, he says her familiar body language to you, but she looks out the window a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And would she have left if the implication was they're coming here?
I don't know.
Because she seemed to almost argue they would have to go through so many people. She said that to Jester.
Yeah.
She's like, no, they can just appear next to you, Mama.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a prelude of rough. But she did sort of give her hope that she's going to go stay with her dad and Zadash.
Yep.
I don't think taking them into the Empire is the safest thing.
No. Arguably, they'd be safer holed up in the Jor house.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Might be a little traumatic for Yeza, but
yeah. I guess there's really no way out of this that at least one of their family members coming along is going to be traumatized.
Right.
I think Luke is just going to be totally enamored.
Unless they take him to Rumblecusp. Hide him with the villagers there.
Yep. And Jester mentioned that to her mom.
Yeah.
As a retirement option. But I think in Jester's mind, that's I'm taking Mom, Dad.
Yeah, that's yeah.
And we're going to retire to an island in the sea. Until she learns that Dad can't go to the sea. For a similar reason that Ford can't go on the sea. There's something under the sea that wants him. And Ford proves Garrick correct.
Mm-hmm.
That lying is a skill like any other, and you have to practice. Because he decides, I'm going to be a busboy in view of the manager of the establishment. And then he says, oh, I'm new here. I do the hiring, motherfucker.
Right.
Are you hiring?
Yeah. Fired on his first day.
So good. Caleb delivers the books to Luke.
Mm-hmm. Which 100% you called.
Yeah. I didn't expect Yusa to have the reaction he did to the book on magic. He seemed absolutely terrified that Luke would learn magic.
Well,
or do you think it's because Caleb is attached to the Cerberus Assembly and he's got some lingering?
There's that, plus since Veth not has learned magic, that whole path that took her to magic is what's kept her from her family since they've been reunited. Is he now going to lose his son too by going down that path?
I think he was just worried about a magic missile coming out of the darkness.
No, you send the magic missile at the darkness.
Either way. there was a lot in that scene that reminded me of Starship Troopers. Like you thought of Hamilton earlier, I thought of Starship Troopers in that one. Like you can either when Johnny goes to sign up,
Yeah.
and he tells the recruiter guy that he got mobile infantry, and the guy's all excited, and he turns around in his chair, and he ain't got no legs, he's got the mechanical arm. Mobile infantry made me the man I am today. Or Carl later in the movie when he's doing his recruitment video.
Yep.
And it was just like, it was the first instance of Caleb potentially doing the job that Trent does, which is recruiting talent for the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Which was ironic because earlier he had talked about how he was afraid that he was what Trent made him.
Yeah.
And we see him basically being that in that scene.
Yeah. Real quick, we kind of skipped over the scene where they talk about it, the residuum shards.
Oh yeah.
So they pull it out. It is residuum, even or at least partly
made with residuum.
Which is we discussed last time whether it was or wasn't. And Caleb's just like, nope. Yeah, see, I know, don't, nope. And
all due respect, that is not coming anywhere near my person.
And they're like, what if you just want to get a tattoo? No. And you asked me who I thought was going to get the tattoo.
If any of them would.
And I think if any of them will, it's Ford. Your argument against that was that he didn't get a tattoo originally, but my argument for it is he's mentioned multiple times. In fact, since he's got the ring, when he bought the ring, he's like, I was saving up for a tattoo.
Yeah, but he has buyer's remorse and non-buyer's remorse at every turn in this campaign.
Right, but no, when he first purchased it, it was, he had that money because he was saving up for a tattoo because he didn't get one with the rest of them, and he wanted one.
Yeah, I mean, and if there's anyone in the group any group, not just their group, but any group, is going to take the shortcut to power, it's the Warlock.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the concept of the class.
Yeah. But I think Veth might.
I think that she would be my number 2 choice.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think it's only one of those 2.
Yeah. Although they may be the only ones who can take advantage because it may not do anything for
a divine
caster.
Yeah.
But Caduceus informs everybody we've got a tail. And when Matt was describing them initially, as Ford walked by and overheard them, and described them sort of as Marquesian.
Yeah.
I kind of thought it was the noble that Jester has the back and forth with.
Yeah. Lord Sharp.
Sharp, yes. Thank you.
See, and when he described it in the Marquesian thing, and we talked about this, a few days ago, because he said it's Marquesian, but it's not quite right. And I knew at that point, I didn't know it was Ashford and Adelwolf, because I didn't expect them to get there that fast either.
Yeah.
But I knew it was someone with disguised self up.
Mm.
I was like, this is someone disguised, or the actor feet, trying to.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a nice nod to Liam, talking about how Caleb's not good at accents.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's a Zemnian thing.
Yeah.
Zemnians just aren't good with accents. Their own is too thick.
Yeah. But Bo, Ford, and Caduceus decide they're going to confront these spies.
Yep.
And quite rightly, Caduceus says if they were going to tell anyone, they could have already. and I'd rather find out who they're working for than, beat them up or whatever.
Yeah. Which is when Beth was just like, let's fuck them up.
And Ford took his rejection very hard.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel bad when Jester breaks his heart. Not that will happen, but if it did, he's going to take it pretty bad.
I'm okay with it.
But they confront them, and in the course of the conversation, they say, we need to deliver a message to Bren.
Mm-hmm.
You recognize the speaker as somebody you had dinner with. Da-da-da. It's Astrid and Wolf.
Yep.
And Ford confronts her.
Yes.
We went to where you said, when you said.
And he was there.
Yeah. And she says, are you implying that I set you up? I didn't.
And they believe her. They fail their insight checks. They get a 16 and a dirty 20. And Matt goes into great detail about how the illusion adds to
makes it
the
hard.
difficulty.
It's another layer of difficulty.
And says, so from what you can tell, she seems sincere. I took that as they did not roll high enough. I figured the DC was 22 to 24.
Yeah. Well, and I did the math.
And came up with 22.
Yeah.
And I was just spitballing when I said 22 to 24. So it's probably around that.
Yeah.
And so they both failed.
Except I don't think that they did. Like, from a DC perspective, if she was lying to anyone, it may have been Airwolf. But I don't think she was being dishonest, because she came there to warn them, and then she let them go later.
Mm.
So, like, if she was trying to set them up, or trying to trap Trent into, like, if she's trying to maneuver everyone to kill Trent, she would have taken them all then. Because the only one that's really depleted is Caleb.
And
all
Jester.
of his support, well, I guess and Jester, but most of his support are not depleted.
Yeah.
So, and Trent is depleted himself, having cast teleport, 2 fairly high level counter spells.
He could have only
magic.
He could have only cast teleportation circle.
It's true.
We know the assembly has a presence in Nicodranus.
Sure.
Very easily have been a teleportation circle.
Well, I was counting teleport to the sanatorium. But the sanatorium could also have a circle itself.
More than likely it does.
So yeah, but that's still 2 instances of teleportation circle.
Yeah.
So it's 2 5th levels. He cast a counterspell at least at 4th or 5th level. Because when Caleb cast his counterspell, he had to roll for it. So he cast it higher than 3rd.
Yeah.
So Trent's not, and his 3 sendings, which are all 4th level spells. So Trent was depleted himself.
Yeah.
If you want to sort of, although technically Trent could have also done Arcane Recovery while they were.
Yeah.
So there's,
and we also don't know what magic items Trent has.
It's true.
There are plenty of high-level stabs and robes and stuff that let you cast certain spells.
Yeah.
X times a day.
Yeah.
That he could have access to.
It's true. But Ford also confronts Aelwulf.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I know why, to Astrid, he says, I know why you're doing this. Why are you doing this? Why are you helping us? And Aelwulf says, I'm not helping you. I'm doing it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the poly confirmed?
Confirmed, no. Is it more evidence for? Yes.
I'll take it. Because my reading of that was...
Until they either say that there was a full-on poly relationship, or we see Aelwulf and Caleb kiss, it's not confirmed.
Okay, fair. But Astrid says, if you have loved ones, get them out of here and leave.
Leave now. If you have any loved ones, take them with you.
Yeah. Which they close the chateau, tell Carlos and Blue to run. They run with Marion.
Yes.
And Veskid. And
let's get somewhere where let's get somewhere so they don't know where we're at, and let's just take the most famous companion on the continent running through the streets with us, because no one will see that, and no questioning from a secret organization will uncover that.
And let's go to the one tower in the city that's visible from everywhere, that is the major arcane player in town.
Yeah, and that's a whole other bag of worms we're going to get into in a minute, because they just gave away all of Yusa's shit. We'll get to that in a minute.
I don't think that's necessarily true. But Marisha, Bo, is obsessed with splitting the party, it seems.
Yeah.
We gotta split up. No, you don't. You split up, you can't support each other.
Yeah.
If one team gets caught, that's it. So, yeah, I was just like, ugh. Luckily they didn't do that. They did not say we're splitting up. And they make it the Tide Peak Tower.
Yes.
And Winthrop reveals Yusa has cast astral projection.
Yep.
He's in the astral sea with his mind.
Yep. Information gathering expedition.
Likelihood of him requiring rescue.
Fairly high. Yes, he's a powerful wizard, but he's also one that either overestimates his ability or underestimates his obstacles, as seen from him being needed to be rescued from the Happy Fun Ball.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There's still a part of me that really wants Wentworth to be the actual wizard and Yusa to just be his errand boy and face. And I need this information. Go to the astral sea and see what you can find. And that's why he actually needs to be rescued. Because he's not the high-level archmage. He's the mid-level apprentice.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I
don't think it's that, but there's a part of me that really wants it to be that.
Yeah. Now, here's the question that I have.
Okay.
They came here looking for help.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt knows if they don't get help or don't get something, they will be caught. And the story might take a turn that he doesn't want it to take.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Matt had already statted out everything that Yusa has in his tower?
Everything? No.
Me neither. So in the moment, Matt says, "Hey, there's the master got something that might be able to help you. Break the thing. It was given to him by somebody who travels."
Yeah.
They open it up.
The Arcana Philosophica.
Yes. And it's a spell scroll, written in Draconic.
Mm-hmm.
The Pansophica are who put Thordak in the fire plane.
Yes, they are.
And Jaman Zord
Yes.
was part of them.
Yep.
So my read on this is that was made by Jaman and given for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Do you think that takes them to a particular place?
We've talked a little bit about this, and I think you're right. I think it's going to be the City of Brass.
Yes. If it's going to a particular place, it will be the City of Brass, and probably the marketplace.
Yeah.
Upon thinking about it, I don't know if it's the case.
Okay.
Because when you cast Plane Shift, you have to target a place. So unless in the scroll it's giving a suggestion, subliminal or not,
You're right.
They basically will wind up in a random location.
Okay.
Is that better or worse than the City of Brass?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when you switch. All the refreshed people come out of the Happy Fun Ball, all the exhausted people go in.
Yeah. And, like, Taliesin gets MVP for me.
Yes.
This episode. And mostly for his handling of the confrontation with Astrid and Eodwulf and keeping that contained and not turning violent right away.
Mm-hmm.
And also, why don't we use the Happy Fun Ball?
Yeah.
And them realizing we know of an exit. It's one room away from the study. Because all they got to do is go up to the stained glass window and push the red button.
The question is, why didn't they just all go in there and have Wentworth hide it?
To get to what you're talking about, if they are going to take all of Yusa's shit.
Well, I don't. Okay, so I don't know if they're going to take all of Yusa's shit. Okay, but here's some things. Because at the end, they're coming in. There's a teleportation circle. You don't think that Trent's going to get down those glyphs and have unfettered access to the tower?
I think that's probably a definite possibility.
You don't think they're gonna go through any correspondence with the Pan Philosophica or anything, or books that are laying around? I mean, he pulled tons of books out of the Happy Fun Ball and has them in his library now.
Except last time that they were here, Matt or when they were looking around, all of the pages were blank. They're all in Sourceworld. So, in that way, that's protected. But I don't think they create an international incident by doing anything to him. Because Astrid's going to say no one was here.
Right.
Because Wentworth told them the master is indisposed. Can I take a message? They bust in. And yeah, the master's on the astral plane. His body's right there. He's indisposed.
Yeah. But at the same time, they're there because they know the Mighty Nine went there.
Do they?
I don't
think they do. I think it was they definitely probably came here, and everyone's gone from here, so they definitely were here. Where else could they go? That's the biggest arcane in town. Let's go there.
Okay, there's that, but I feel like they're probably questioning people. And Matt made it a point. You are getting some lookers because you are taking the Ruby of the Sea through the city. There are people who watched you go into the tower. There are people who can give up that answer under duress. They know they're there.
It's fair. But
now that may mean a second visit because they may go there initially, like you're saying, just on a hunch. They didn't go, let's question people. Oh, they did go there. Let's go back.
Yeah.
And find out what really happened.
But there's no proof that the owner of the tower, helped them.
Correct.
Because he's not there.
Which, does that put Wentworth on trial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if he has to, he'll take the fall to protect his master.
Yeah. But, you know, my main thing, yes, he could theoretically take anything. I mean, he could take something while he has Aodwolf questioning Wentworth in the other room and then, oh, those people who came in, who the goblin says broke in, must have taken it.
Fair.
I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to take everything. He may take some things, but he definitely now has unfettered access to the tower because I guarantee he's jotting down those glyphs for that teleportation circle.
Yeah.
At the very least, they're getting that out of this trip.
Yeah.
And that's not the guy you want having unfettered access to your arcane tower.
Which means they may be able to enlist him to fight Trent.
Yep.
Look, if you don't want this guy to have access, we gotta kill him. You can help with that. But it's your fault he was here. Yeah. It could be, as Caleb warned, it could be the end of their relationship.
Yep.
No matter how it turns out. So, only time will tell with that.
Yep.
I think if Matt wanted to be mean, and I think he probably does, because I would.
Okay.
Next episode begins in the Happy Fun Ball. The next episode does not begin with them materializing wherever they're materializing.
Yeah.
And here's the logic behind it. Inside the Happy Fun Ball is more important to know how long they are there.
Yeah.
Before they get to an exit. Now, whether there's a combat, I don't think so. We haven't seen the golems in the study.
Yeah. I don't think there'll be a combat unless they go the wrong way on accident.
Well, there's really no way to go the wrong way. They picked out their exit point, and it's up the stairs above the bookcases and push the button.
Yeah.
It's literally, if they want it to be, less than 30 seconds.
Okay.
Travis joked about going to the Crystal Caverns, but I think he was just joking about that. I hope he was joking about that. But determining how long they're in the ball will determine how soon they exit. And that's important for anything that's going to happen in wherever they materialize.
Right.
because that will determine how many rounds, if they end up in combat, it is before the cavalry arrive.
Right.
So that's why I say we will probably start with that.
Yep.
And then it will be you all materialize.
Yeah.
Here. Whether that be Dis or the City of Brass.
Yeah.
Or somewhere in the Hells.
Here's my question. So, is Caleb going to pull ahead in the number of eyes he has? Because theoretically, they could take a whole long rest, and Bo won't have time to take a whole long rest in the Happy Fun Bowl when she gets out. And if it's evenly spaced thing, this next rest should be the one where he gets an eye.
If it is a number of rests dependent, I don't think that it is. I think it's action dependent. Each time they've gotten an eye, they have concealed the eyes of 9 from somebody. Or they have concealed certain pieces of it. Or they have concealed that they have the eyes.
Well, theoretically, they're consistently concealing that they have the eyes. Every time they interact with someone who isn't in the 9 and not telling them, they're concealing the fact that they have the eyes.
Yes, technically you're correct. But I think it has to be, they are talking about the cognosa without mentioning that they have it. If it's triggered. But it could also be, the players have definitely surmised or have interpreted it as a ticking clock.
Yeah.
Whether that's intentional by Matt or not. And so, if he gets another eye, then we have more evidence that it is indeed a ticking clock. But there's also the possibility that because Caleb and Bo read the book at the same time, they have the same dream. No matter where she is, if Caleb is dreaming, she dreams.
Yeah.
And we have from
Lucian, you don't have to sleep to dream.
Yep. So, well, that's an interesting possibility that it becomes an imbalance in the eyes.
Well, that also throws a wrinkle in we have to take care of the whole fun ball, because if he has a long rest out, and oh, you dreamed. Okay, well now we got to go back to where you're at here. You stopped for a second. You had a dream.
But that's why I don't like them coming out is not going to be really. It's going to be if it's 12 times the time, that will be 6. If it's 30 seconds for them to get up the stairs, push the button, charge both things, and hit and come out, then that's 6 minutes.
Right.
For our people. So unless they materialize and shit happens immediately, they won't be coming out in the middle of combat. So there won't be the opportunity to imbalance the long rest.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for them to take a short rest wherever they're at. It's gonna, when they materialize, it's going to be, where are we?
Yes.
And where can we go to get out of the heat?
Rest. Yeah.
Well, Leomid's tiny hut will give them a place to rest. And Caleb can cast that ritually. But they have to wait until the point where they can take a long rest.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a while. So they've got probably 8 hours-ish, wherever they're at, before they can start a long rest. This is where, if you were doing like a gritty survival situation.
Yeah.
Because they have 3 people who might not have water. They might have food because he was at the market.
Yeah.
So there may be some food with them. Marion probably only has clothes, and she wanted wine that she didn't get. So they have only what they were carrying on them. Now, the Bobas will sustain them. So I don't think there's any danger. And Ford can cast Create Water.
Right. So
there's no real danger to them spending a few hours in the fire plane.
Right. And especially not to Marion being a tiefling.
Yeah, she's going to be fine. And ironically, if Jester had attuned to the Ring of Fire Resistance, she'd be fine too. Or if Ford still had it.
Well, maybe they'll take time to do it in the Happy Fun Ball before coming out.
He didn't have it.
Doesn't Jester have it?
Yeah, but Jester's not in a Happy Fun Ball. Ford, Bo, and Yasha are in the ball.
That's right. That's right. My brain was flipped. I was thinking Ford, Jester, and Bo.
I think, depending on where they land, will determine whether or not it's checking for random encounters, or, and this is what I hope, that they come across the jewel merchant who gives them a box to take to Vasselheim.
See, now I want that to happen strictly for Ashley's reaction because of how paranoid Pike was about that box.
Yep. Only this time, Veth will unlock the box to see what's in it. And it's just an offering for her grave.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And maybe that will, if they did that, maybe that would turn Caduceus onto, if you're on this mission for the Wild Mother, her staff was discovered 20 years ago. It's in the hands of a druid.
Yeah. So when they describe her, oh, wait, we know who that is. Which, yeah. I'm still a little sad they didn't get to meet Keelan and be presented the staff for returning Bila.
Yeah, me too. I'm still holding out hope that Caduceus gets it. But we'll see. There doesn't seem much left in the campaign.
No.
We've been getting more and more signs that we're really close to the end.
Yeah.
And especially with Veth saying, a couple more weeks and I'll come home. And they're already talking about Campaign 3.
Yes. We know at least Sam and Liam have their characters.
Yes. So, excited for that to happen. But,
how long of a break do you think there's going to be between 2 and 3? Because between 1 and 2, it happened over the holiday break, and so they took, the 1 month.
Yeah.
You think it'll just be a month again?
Probably, but I think we'll get some one-shots.
Okay. Like the ones promised in the Kickstarter?
Yeah. Well, maybe not those, because some of those were promised to be live shows. Or it was expressed they wanted to do them in live shows.
Yeah. But that was
some battle
before
royales.
Live shows were no longer a thing.
Yes. So COVID may give us virtual ones like that. So we'll see. But that's it for this week. I don't think there's anything else.
No.
I'm going to reset some stuff, and then I will be back to read my short story about Vex, Percy, and Tricket. We will see you guys next week.
I guess.